I used to think the creepiest sound in the world was silence. But that changed the day I heard a little girl's voice calling from a cassette tape nobody remembered recording. My name's Evan Ridgway. I'm a freelance audio tech. Mostly do sound restoration, digitizing old analog tapes for people who don't know what else to do with a shoebox full of forgotten cassettes. It's a niche gig, but pays the bills, and every once in a while, something strange comes across my desk. Not paranormal podcast strange, I mean quiet strange, the kind you can't explain and don't really want to try. This story starts in the spring of 2022. A woman named Carol Holloway reached out to me through my website. She was clearing out her late father's house in a small town in northern Oregon. Said she found a box of tapes in the attic and wanted to know if I could convert them to digital. Nothing unusual there, happens all the time. I asked the usual questions: tape format, number of reels, condition. She said most were your standard 90-minute cassette tapes. A few with handwritten labels like Choir Practice 1985 or Dad's Birthday. The kind of mundane stuff I expected. But one tape stood out, no label, just a piece of faded masking tape with a date, June 14, 2003. That detail didn't register at the time. It would later. Carol shipped the box a week later. The tapes arrived in a recycled Amazon box with old newspaper packed around them. Everything looked ordinary. Most of the cassettes were dusty, but intact. I began working through them one by one. I was halfway through Choir Practice 1985 when I finally popped in the unmarked tape. That's when everything changed. The audio quality was surprisingly decent, considering its age. I heard wind in the background, trees, maybe a field. Children laughing faintly in the distance. The kind of ambient sound you'd expect from a backyard or park. Then a voice. A girl's voice, clear and close to the microphone. Ready or not, here I come. It startled me. I paused the tape, rewound a bit, listened again. Same line, same cadence. It wasn't eerie at first. Just odd. Why would someone record a game of hide and seek? I let the tape roll. More silence, then footsteps on gravel. The sound of a door creaking open. Birds chirping loudly. Then static. Heavy, distorted static, like the recorder was brushing against fabric or dropped. Then the voice returned. The same girl, but this time quieter. Breathless. She whispered something I couldn't make out at first. I boosted the gain and ran a few filters. That's when I heard it. Don't come in here. He's still inside. I froze. I played it again, over and over. The voice wasn't scared. It wasn't playful. It was matter of fact. A child's casual warning, like she was speaking to a friend just out of frame. But the way she said it chilled me. I didn't know why yet. I emailed Carol the same day and asked if she knew who the girl on the tape might be. She didn't, said she didn't recognize the voice, and that her family never had a daughter. But she mentioned something else, something strange. Her neighbor's niece had gone missing years ago. In 2003, her name was Emily Brandt. I asked if she remembered the exact date. She replied within minutes, June 14th. I stared at the email, rereading the date until the letters blurred. June 14th, 2003. Same as the one written on the tape in faded marker. That wasn't a coincidence. I knew it then, like you know a glass is going to fall before it hits the floor. A sinking inevitability in your gut. I asked Carol if she'd be willing to talk more about the neighbor, the girl who vanished. She hesitated, but eventually agreed to a call. We spoke later that night. Her voice sounded tired, like she was dragging memories out from a part of her mind that hadn't been opened in years. Emily was 7, she said. Lived 2 houses down from my dad. I remember her being really sweet, kind of shy. She used to play outside a lot, always in that same yellow dress. She disappeared during a barbecue. Her uncle's birthday, I think. What happened? Carol sighed. She was playing hide and seek with the other kids. They said she ran off to hide behind the garden shed, but when they looked for her, she was gone. Like, just gone. It was daylight. People were outside. No one saw a thing. She paused. They searched the whole neighborhood. The woods. Even drained part of the old reservoir. Nothing. No witnesses. No sounds. No signs of struggle. It was like she blinked out of existence. Her voice dropped. It destroyed her family. I didn't know what to say. So I didn't. When the call ended, I sat there listening to the tape again. Emily's voice. Laughing. Calling. Warning. I felt like I had been handed something no one was supposed to hear. The next morning, I decided to digitize the tape properly and analyze it in depth. I pulled it into my editing suite and scrubbed every second. I applied stereo balancing, EQ, spatial simulation, everything I could think of to isolate background detail. That's when I noticed something else. There was another voice, distant, low, barely audible. It didn't come through on regular playback, only when I reversed the polarity and slowed the track by 15%. A man's voice, just one sentence. I see you, I swear to you. It didn't sound threatening. It sounded amused, like someone watching from a distance. I tried to match it with known voices using a public database of speech samples. Nothing came close. I played it for a friend, another audio engineer, without context. He just frowned. Where did you get this? It doesn't sound like modern recording. The mic profile feels weird, like it's picking up things it shouldn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around that phrase. Don't come in here. He's still inside. Inside what? A house? A room? A hiding place? I emailed Carol again, asked her if the recording might have been taken in her father's backyard. She replied with a photo, an old Polaroid of the yard taken sometime in the early 2000s. There was a shed, some trees, and a patch of overgrown grass along the fence line. But something about the shed caught my attention. The door was padlocked from the outside. I asked her about it. She said her dad had always kept that shed locked, claimed it was unstable, said the roof was bad, floor had rot. Don't go in there, he used to say. Nothing worth seeing anyway. After he died, the shed remained locked. Carol never opened it, just left it there, untouched. Until I asked her to. Reluctantly, she agreed, said she'd go by the house that weekend, see if she could find the key. I waited 3 days. No response. On the 4th day, she emailed me again. I opened the shed. That was the subject line. Nothing else. No text. Just that. An hour later, she called. She was shaken, speaking quickly, like she was trying to outrun her own words. There was a recorder, she said. A cassette recorder. It was half buried under some old camping gear. There was another tape inside. Same kind. No label. I haven't played it yet. Evan, I don't want to. I asked her to send it to me. She hesitated, then agreed. The package arrived a week later. The cassette was scratched and worn, like it had been handled too much by too many hands. I loaded it into my player, heart thudding. The tape began with silence. Then static. Then, faint, distant breathing. Then her voice. Is anyone there? Emily. I swear to God, it was her again. Same tone. Same cadence. The tape kept rolling, rustling, scraping, the sound of something being dragged slowly across a hard floor. Then she whispered, I don't know how to get out. I stopped the tape. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, listening to that line over and over again. I don't know how to get out. Her voice wasn't frantic. It wasn't crying. It sounded tired, like she'd been trying for a long time. The next morning I went back to the original tape, the one with the garden sounds and the playful laughter, and started comparing ambient frequencies. The birds, the wind, the creak of wood. I wanted to know if the second recording came from the same location. I matched several acoustic markers. The pattern of the bird calls. The wind signature. Even the subtle reverb off metal. It wasn't just similar. It was the same place. Same day. Probably the same hour. Which made no sense. The first recording was clearly outdoors. The second, where she whispered that sentence, was enclosed, muffled. Like the recorder was inside a box. Or underground. I started to form a theory. Not a logical one. Just a gut feeling. What if the recorder had been hidden? What if someone had left it on, not as a mistake, but to capture something they expected? I didn't want to believe it, but it lingered in my mind like a splinter. That someone might have known what was going to happen. That they set it up intentionally. I tried to talk myself out of it. Old tape. Coincidence. Maybe the girl on the recording wasn't Emily. Maybe it was just kids playing near the property and the dates happened to line up. But it didn't feel like a coincidence. Not when the third tape arrived. It came in a plain padded envelope with no return address. Just my name printed in block letters. Inside was a single cassette and a folded piece of yellow paper. On the paper, written in blue ink, the last place she hid. That was it. No signature, no context. I played the tape, expecting more noise, more fragments. Instead, it was completely blank for the first 30 minutes. Just hiss, Then, suddenly, at 32:07, a sound. Metal scraping on wood. Then footsteps. One set. Heavy. Adult. Then, after a pause, the unmistakable sound of a latch closing. I leaned in. Static filled the next few seconds. Then, whispering. It was almost too quiet to hear. I had to run it through 3 layers of filtering just to isolate it. A girl's voice again, but this time, not asking for help. She said, "He said if I'm quiet long enough, someone will find me." Then a pause. "I don't think he's coming back." That last line. It broke something in me. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know if it was Emily or some other girl. But the tone in her voice, it wasn't fear. It was resignation. I took the tape to a friend of mine who works in law enforcement audio forensics. We played it together in his lab. He didn't say anything for a long time after it ended. Finally, he turned to me and asked, "Where did you get this?" I told him everything. Carol, the shed, the first tape, the date. He sat back in his chair and rubbed his face. "You know this sounds like evidence, right?" I nodded. "But of what?" He didn't answer. I asked if he could run the voice through any kind of aging filter, something that could simulate how it would sound now, if the girl was alive today. He said maybe, but it would take time. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the shed. The padlock, the tapes, the voice that said, "I see you." I called Carol again. No answer. I waited a day, then another. On the 3rd day, I got a call, but not from her. It was her brother. He said Carol had gone back to the house a few nights earlier. Said she wanted to look through her dad's things again. She never came home. Police searched the property. They found her car in the driveway. Her keys still in the ignition. The front door was unlocked. Nothing missing. No signs of struggle. But she was gone. I asked if they'd searched the shed. He paused. The police said it was empty. Just old junk. They cleared it already. I hung up and stared at my equipment. At the tapes. At the waveform still frozen on my screen. I didn't want to go back and listen again. But I did. I pulled up the very first recording, the one where Emily said, "Don't come in here." He's still inside. This time, I let it play 10 seconds longer than I had before. I don't know why. Call it instinct. At 48:15, there's a sound I'd missed. Faint, almost buried. A second child's voice. One I hadn't noticed before. A boy. He says, "Okay, I'll stay out. Promise." Then silence. Then the tape ends. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the waveform. Wondering who he was. Wondering if he kept that promise. Wondering if someone else didn't. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that last whisper. Not the words themselves, but the tone. That strange calm that only kids seem to have when they don't fully understand how bad something really is. On the 3rd night, I gave in and started researching everything I could about Emily Brandt's disappearance. I dove deep, old local newspaper archives, internet forums, scanned microfiche records from the town library. It was slow and tedious work, but eventually I started piecing things together. Emily had been playing in the backyard during her uncle's birthday party. There were supposedly 12 adults and 5 other kids present. She was last seen around 5:30 p.m. She'd run off to hide, giggling, while the adults were still lighting the grill. One of the kids, her cousin Brian, counted to 20 and went looking. Emily wasn't behind the fence. She wasn't under the porch. Not behind the old swing set either. After about 10 minutes, Brian told his parents he couldn't find her. At first, no one panicked. They thought she was being stubborn, hiding well. It wasn't until nearly 30 minutes passed and every adult had scoured the property that they called the police. The search that followed lasted 3 weeks. The National Guard got involved. Helicopters, dogs, divers, everything. They found nothing. Not a shoe, not a hair, not a sound. No one had seen a car. No one reported a strange person near the house. It was like she evaporated. The official report ended with the words "presumed abducted." But there was one odd detail that caught my eye, something I hadn't seen mentioned anywhere else. A statement from one of the neighbors. He was 13 at the time. His quote read, "I thought I saw her standing behind the shed later that night. But when I called out, she didn't move. I thought maybe it wasn't her." That statement was buried in a supplemental report, never followed up on. I tracked down the man. His name was Nolan Pierce. I found him on Facebook and sent a message. He replied the next day, surprised anyone was asking about it after so many years. We agreed to a phone call. When we spoke, I asked him what he remembered. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Honestly, I forgot most of it. But I do remember one thing. Her dress looked darker, like it had been wet or dirty. And she was just standing there. Not hiding, just staring." I asked if he remembered where exactly he saw her. He said it was behind the old shed. The one in Carol's yard. I asked him how far away he was. Maybe 30 feet, but it was dusk. I thought maybe it was a shadow. "Did you tell anyone back then?" "My mom, but she said it was just my imagination." There was a long pause. Then he said, "You think that was really her?" "I don't know," I replied. "But I think she was trying to be found." After we hung up, I looked back at the second tape. The one where she whispered, "He said if I'm quiet long enough, someone will find me." The sadness in that line hit me harder now. I opened the original tape again and listened to the background ambiance. This time, I caught something else. A sound I hadn't noticed. Barely audible, buried beneath the static. A rhythmic clunking, metal on wood, like something swinging. I enhanced it, ran it through a filter. It was the unmistakable sound of a chain. And behind that, there was music. Old, warped, barely playing from some distant speaker. A children's song, Ring Around the Rosie, but slowed down, too slow, distorted, like the batteries were dying. I froze. That detail hadn't come up anywhere in the case notes. I called my audio tech friend and asked if he could isolate the song and tell me what kind of device it came from. He called back an hour later. "It's not a stereo," he said. "Not a phone, not a radio." "What is it?" I asked. "It's a toy, like one of those old crank music boxes. Something you'd wind up and leave on a shelf." I thought about Emily's voice. The shed, the tapes, the lock on the outside. The phrase, "He said if I'm quiet long enough, someone will find me." What if she wasn't just hiding? What if someone had told her to stay quiet? To wait? I stared at the waveform on my screen. Something didn't add up. The third tape, the one mailed to me anonymously, had a distinct background frequency. A 60 Hz hum. That meant it was recorded near an electrical source. Not outside, not underground, but somewhere in a building. Somewhere with power. And if it wasn't the shed, then maybe. I called the property records office. Asked for schematics of the Holloway home, going back to the 1980s. They emailed me a scanned blueprint the next day. The house had been remodeled in 1997. But there was a detail in the old layout that caught my eye. A root cellar, sealed up during the renovation. Forgotten, never reopened, located directly beneath the shed. I stared at the blueprint for nearly an hour. Heart pounding like I'd just stumbled onto a crime scene no one ever found. The root cellar wasn't just under the shed, it was directly below it, with the entrance originally connected by a narrow stairwell that had been boarded up and sealed from the inside during the renovation. According to the blueprint, it was a concrete-walled room about 12 by 12 feet, with no windows and only one point of access. A perfect hiding place, or prison. I sent a copy of the layout to my friend in law enforcement. I told him about the hum, the toy music box, the voice. He didn't answer right away. When he finally called, he sounded uneasy. "This isn't just a curiosity anymore, Evan," he said. "If that cellar is real, and it hasn't been searched, you need to stop what you're doing and turn this over to someone." But I couldn't stop. Not yet. Not when Carol was missing. Not when there was still one more voice on those tapes I hadn't fully identified. So I went to the house myself. I drove through the night. 8 hours from my place in Redding to that quiet street in northern Oregon. I parked down the block from the Holloway property, walked up the driveway under the gray light of early morning. The house looked abandoned now. Curtains drawn, mail stacked at the door. But the shed was still there. Faded, sagging, like a mouth that had long stopped speaking. I stepped into the yard. Everything felt wrong, still, airless. I expected birds or a breeze, but there was nothing. I walked up to the shed and tested the door. Still unlocked. The padlock hung to the side like an afterthought. Inside, it smelled like mildew and time. Old tarps, rusted tools, rodent droppings. I stood there for a full minute before I found the corner where the floorboard seemed different. Not newer, older, untouched. I knelt and tapped it. Hollow. I pried it up with a crowbar I found leaning near the wall. Beneath the board was a square of concrete, roughly framed. A metal ring embedded in the center. A hatch. It took both hands to lift it. The hinges screamed with the sound of years being unwound. A wave of cold, stale air hit me in the face. I shone my flashlight down and saw the first step. I don't remember climbing down. My memory just jumps. 1 second I was in the shed, the next I was standing in a concrete room lit only by my flashlight. The walls were damp, the air heavy with earth and something sour. In the corner was a pile of old blankets, a metal bucket, a broken cassette recorder, and something else, a music box. It was rusted shut, the winding key missing, but I recognized the shape. Same one I'd heard on the tape. I moved closer and crouched. That's when I saw the writing. Scratched into the wall with something sharp. Day 1, then below it, day 2, then, day 3, dozens of them, overlapping, sometimes repeating. Day 12 inches written 3 times. Day 17 inches next it in larger letters. Then a gap, and at the bottom, almost lost in the crumbling concrete. Still here. I stood up and turned. That's when I saw the second hatch. A smaller one, hidden behind what looked like an old cabinet pushed up against the wall. It wasn't on the blueprint. I cleared the cabinet and opened it. Inside was a chair, and a recorder, still plugged into a long dead outlet. There was a tape inside. I pressed play. Nothing. Then, static. Then her voice. But it wasn't Emily. It was Carol. He told me I could leave if I found the first voice. Long pause. I found it. Longer pause. But I don't think it was hers. The tape clicked. Then a third voice. Not a child. Not a woman. A man. Low. Whispering, but clear. Now you know where she is. But do you know who put her there? The tape ended. I stood in the dark with that voice echoing in my head. I looked around the room again. At the chair. At the blankets. At the rusted recorder. I knew what this place was. It wasn't a cellar. It was a waiting room. And someone had been waiting for a very long time. I climbed out of the shed and called the police. Told them everything. I handed over the tapes. The emails. The photo of the blueprints. The music box. They cordoned off the property. Searched it top to bottom. They found traces of human DNA in the cellar. Matched it to Emily Brandt. But they didn't find a body. Not hers. Not Carol's. Just those tapes. And one last message. Left on my voicemail a week later. No number. No ID. Just static, and a whisper. She's still playing. Then a giggle. Then silence. They traced the call to a payphone 3 towns over. Abandoned. Disconnected for years. The text said it was impossible. The line wasn't active. No signal should have gone through. But it did. I asked them to play it again. They hesitated. When they finally hit play, the whisper was different. Not just a voice this time. A sound layered beneath it. The faint hum of the same music box tune, warped, dragging just enough to twist something innocent into something that didn't feel like it belonged in our world anymore. I tried to move on. I told myself I'd done my part. The tapes were with the police. The cellar was sealed. The house was marked as a place of investigation. But every few days, another envelope arrived. No return address. No note. Just a tape. One had nothing but breathing. Slow, steady, unnatural breathing that looped at irregular intervals. One had the sound of scratching, like nails on wood. Another had what sounded like the same sentence repeated in a dozen different voices, all layered on top of each other. I'm still it. I stopped playing them after that. I locked them in a box and buried it under everything else in my storage room. But that didn't stop the dreams. In one of them, I'm back in the cellar. But this time, I'm not alone. I hear her, Emily, or someone who sounds like her. She's not whispering anymore. She's singing, softly. The lyrics don't make sense. They change every time I try to remember them. But they always end the same way. Ready or not, you'll never find me. And then I wake up to the sound of my tape deck clicking on by itself. No tape inside, just that hum. 60 hertz. Unmistakable. Last week, I found something new in my mailbox. No envelope, just a cassette, wrapped in a piece of cloth that smelled like earth and something old. I took it inside, stared at it for a full hour before I finally played it. It was different from the others. Clearer, cleaner, like it was recorded yesterday. At first, silence, then a door creaking open. Footsteps, gravel, then a child's voice. Not a whisper, not fear, just tired. It's been 19 years, she says. Why didn't you come find me? Then static, then another voice. Male, familiar now. They stopped looking, but you didn't. Click. End of tape. I don't know what it means. I don't know why they're still coming. But I think someone's trying to tell me something. Or warn me. Or maybe invite me to play. A few days ago, I received one final package. No return address, as usual. But this time, it wasn't a tape. It was a photograph. Black and white. A grainy image of a backyard. A girl in a dress standing by a shed. Her face turned away, but her hand is raised. Waving. Behind her, in the shadows, something is watching. Not a man. Not exactly. Just the outline of someone not meant to be there. On the back of the photo, one sentence. You found her voice. Now find her. I haven't told the police about that one. I keep it in my drawer. Sometimes I take it out and just stare. I don't know what I'm hoping to see. Something new. A clue. A mistake. But nothing ever changes. Except that last night, when I looked at it, the girl's hand was no longer waving. It was pointing directly at me. I didn't sleep after that. I left the photo on the kitchen table and sat across from it until morning. I told myself it was stress, a trick of the light, something explainable. I even took a photo of the photo, compared it to the original. Identical. No movement, no pointing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever this was, this slow unspooling of something long buried, it wasn't done with me. The tapes had stopped arriving. For weeks, nothing. No more midnight calls, no new whispers, no static at 60 hertz. It should have been over. It wasn't. 2 months later, I got a call from a woman named Jill Mercer. She was a property manager handling foreclosures in rural areas outside Salem. She told me she'd come across an abandoned farm that had belonged to a man named Daniel Loring. The name rang no bells until she mentioned he used to live next door to the Holloways. Back in the 90s, her voice lowered when she said that, like she knew she wasn't supposed to. She said the farmhouse had a strange energy. She said she found photographs in the attic, dozens of them, of children. All blurry, none labeled, all taken from a distance. And in the basement, she said, we found shelves of cassette tapes. Hundreds. My stomach dropped. I asked her to describe the labels. She said most were blank. Some had names. Some had dates. She said there was one marked Emily Final. She asked if I wanted it. I told her no. Then I told her yes. She mailed it to me 3 days later. I stared at the package for 12 hours before I opened it. Inside was the tape, and a single sheet of paper, torn at the edge, with 5 words handwritten in pencil, "You're the only one listening." I played it. It began with laughter. Children, again. Hide and seek. That same echoing voice calling ready or not. Then, silence. And then, a countdown. 10, 9, 8, slower with each number. 7, 6, 5, until it faded into static at 3. A whisper started under the fuzz. You almost found me. Then a girl humming. Not a song I knew. Just a loop, quiet and broken, as if sung while shivering. The tape ran for 47 minutes. The humming never stopped. Until the last 10 seconds. That's when she spoke again. You're it now. Click. Silence. That night, every tape deck I owned clicked on at once. No tapes inside. Just the hiss of static. All at the same volume. All at the same pitch. I unplugged them. They kept playing. I took them apart. Burned the tape heads. Sold off the last remaining recorders. I smashed the final one with a hammer and tossed it into a landfill 2 towns over. Still, some nights, when everything's quiet, I hear the click. Just before I fall asleep, I started having dreams again. Not of the cellar, but of somewhere deeper. A place without light, cold stone walls, endless corridors, and always the sound of footsteps behind me. Slow, measured, like someone walking barefoot across concrete. I never see them, but I hear the girl humming. I've tried moving, twice. Both times, within days, another envelope arrives. No return address, no note, just a tape. I don't listen anymore. I bury them in the woods. Burn them, smash them, but I know it doesn't matter. Because it's not the tapes. It's me. I heard her voice. I listened too long. I heard something I wasn't supposed to. I opened the door, and I think, God help me, I think I answered. A few weeks ago, I went back to the Holloway property. The house has been condemned, but the shed is still there. Padlock replaced. No one goes near it. But I stood at the edge of the yard and listened. Just to see. To prove to myself it was all in my head. I waited. 10 minutes. Then 20. Nothing. And then, from deep underground, faint but unmistakable, I heard the music box. Playing just a few notes. Slowly. like a child winding it for the first time in years. Then a voice. Not a whisper this time. Loud, close, direct. Come play. I ran. I didn't look back. I don't think I ever will. But I keep the last tape. Not the one from the farmhouse. Not the original. The very last one. The one I found inside a cassette recorder that somehow showed up in the backseat of my locked car 2 days ago. There's no voice, no music, no breathing, just one sound. A knock. One. Then another. Then silence. I know what it means. I know it's not over. Because someone, or something, is still hiding. And I'm still it. I tried pretending it didn't happen. Told myself someone must have slipped into my car, left the recorder as a sick joke. Maybe someone from online. Some twisted follower who pieced my story together through the forum threads, the podcast interview I stupidly gave last year. I deleted everything. My social media, my website, my backup drives. I even threw out my computer. But it didn't stop. The knocking started following me. Not on doors or walls, but in places it shouldn't have been. My fridge, my closet, once, from behind the bathroom mirror. Always 2 knocks. Always just loud enough to know I wasn't imagining it. Then silence, like it was waiting. I stopped going out, stopped answering the phone. I moved again, to a trailer off a logging road in eastern Washington. No neighbors, no address, no mailbox. I didn't tell anyone. I brought nothing with me, no tapes, no electronics. Just clothes and food and enough books to keep my mind occupied. I lived like that for 6 months. And for a while, it worked. No knocks, no dreams, no whispers. I almost believed it was over. Then one night, a storm hit. The wind knocked out the power. I lit candles and tried to sleep. That's when I noticed something on the table. A cassette, just sitting there, next to the unlit candle. I hadn't seen it earlier. Hadn't brought it in. It wasn't there, but it was now. No label, just a date, written in small, shaky letters on the side. June 14, 2025. I stared at it for hours. The storm raged outside, branches scraping the trailer like fingernails. I told myself not to listen. Not again, but I did. I found an old Walkman I'd left in a box of tools. It still worked. The tape clicked in smoothly, like it belonged there. Like it was home. I pressed play. Static. Then footsteps. Gravel. Then a voice I hadn't heard in nearly 2 years. Emily. He's still playing, she said. But he doesn't like when you stop looking. Then another voice. Carol. Tired. Hollow. It never ends. You just pass it on. Then silence. For a long time. Just the hiss of the tape. I was about to stop it when a third voice came through. My own. I think I made it worse. I stopped breathing. I rewound the tape and played it again. The voice was definitely mine. Same tone, same rhythm, but I never said those words. Not on any recording. Not ever. I don't know how they got there. I don't know how any of this is happening. But I know now, it's not about Emily anymore. Or Carol, or the tapes. It's about the story, the game, the pattern. Someone leaves the tape. Someone listens. Someone answers. And then someone disappears. But not completely. Not all at once. You start with whispers, then knocks, then the dreams, then the voice, and eventually, you stop being the listener. You become the sound, the recording, the thing left behind. I tried to break the tape. Burn it, shatter the plastic. It wouldn't break. It wouldn't burn. It sat in the fire for 10 minutes, the flames dancing around it like it wasn't even real. When I took it out, it was cool to the touch. The next morning, it was gone. In its place, a note. Handwritten, on the back of a photograph of the shed. 3 words. Tag, you're it. That was 2 days ago. Last night, I woke to the sound of a cassette clicking into place. No recorder, no power, just the sound, right next to my ear. I turned on the light. Nothing there, but on my skin, just under my collarbone, were 2 small bruises. Like fingerprints, pressed hard. And this morning, in the dirt outside my trailer, I found footsteps. Bare, small, leading to the door, not away. I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to stop this. But I know the rules. I listened, I answered, I became part of it. So now I'm doing the only thing I can. I'm leaving this story behind. I'm putting it here, for you, because the only way out is to pass it on. And if you're reading this, if you've made it this far, you've heard her voice now too. Listen carefully tonight, when the world goes quiet, when the house settles, when your breath slows and the dark grows long. Listen for 2 knocks, then a whisper, then a tape. And when you hear her say it, when you hear the words, don't answer. Don't reply, don't play, because once you do, she'll know you're it. And that's the thing. They don't tell you what happens after you become it. They don't explain the rules. There's no manual, no instructions. Just a sensation, like something behind your eyes is watching itself from somewhere else. You're not pulled away all at once. No, it starts slow. You forget things. You wake up in places you don't remember walking to. Your voice sounds different on phone calls. Then one day, someone tells you they saw you somewhere you've never been. They show you a photo. It's blurry, but it's you, or something shaped like you. And in the background, always the same girl, always Emily, watching, smiling, waiting. I've started recording everything, not because I think it'll save me, but because I know someone else will find it. Someone always does. That's the cycle. You find the tape, you listen, you try to help, you try to solve it. You think it's about a missing girl, a lost voice, a place no one searched. But it's never really about the seller, or the music box, or the birthday. It's about you, about the moment you cross the line from observer to participant. You can pretend to ignore it. You can throw away the tapes, move to the woods, block the windows, but she'll find you, not out of malice, not out of vengeance, but because that's the game. And you're part of it now. This morning, I found something carved into my doorframe. Not scratched in with a knife or tool. It looked burned in, scorched right into the wood. 2 words, no tagbacks. Below it, lying carefully centered on the welcome mat, was another cassette. I didn't touch it. I left it there. But tonight, it's gone. And I'm afraid to look under my pillow. Because I know it's there now. I feel it, the weight of it, somehow. Like a heartbeat beneath the mattress. I dream about the shed almost every night now. But it's changed. It's not in the Holloway backyard anymore. It's behind every house. It shifts, morphs. One night, it's behind my old middle school. The next, it's at the bottom of the church steps from my hometown. Always locked, always humming from the inside. I've come to believe the shed isn't a place. It's a doorway. And once you hear the voice, it opens. Not for you to walk through, but for it to reach out. I spoke to Nolan again, the boy who saw Emily that night, decades ago. He called me this time. I could tell right away something was wrong. He said he's been hearing her too. Not just on tapes, not in dreams. He said she speaks from the static on his TV. That sometimes the closed captions spell her name when no one is speaking. He hasn't slept in 4 days. The last thing he said before the line cut was, I think I'm almost tagged. That was a week ago. I haven't been able to reach him since. The worst part is, I can't tell anyone who hasn't heard the voice. They won't believe me. They'll think it's trauma, or obsession, or a breakdown. And maybe it is. Maybe I am unraveling. But that doesn't explain how my voicemail plays when my phone is off. Or why my nephew, 4 years old, drew a picture of the girl with no feet who visits him when I'm babysitting. He said she hides behind the heater. That she asked if he liked music boxes. I haven't been to that house in months. No one there has ever seen the tapes. So how does she know him? I'm writing this now by candlelight in a motel 4 counties over. I changed my name again. Bought a burner laptop. I've disconnected from everything. No credit cards, no GPS, no phone. Still, I found a tape in my suitcase this morning. It was inside a box of cereal I bought yesterday. Still sealed, still shrink wrapped. Inside, nestled among the flakes, was the cassette. No label, just the same hum. 60 Hz. I didn't play it. I'm trying not to. But part of me already knows what it says. Because sometimes, when I lie perfectly still, I can feel the recorder turning inside me. Like my body's just a shell. Like I've already started recording. And what's worse, I think I'm not just hearing her anymore. I think I'm starting to answer back. I don't know how long I have. But I know someone will find this story. Just like I found hers. Just like the one who came before me found the one before them. And when you do, whatever you do, don't press play. I haven't spoken aloud in 3 days. Not because I've lost my voice, but because I'm afraid she'll hear it. I think that's how it spreads now. Not just through the tapes, not just through dreams or knocks, but through speech. Through narration. Every time I tell someone the story, something gets closer. Every time I say her name, the lights flicker. The power dips. The temperature drops. She's listening. She always has been. The motel staff stopped knocking. They just leave things at the door now. I think they're scared of me. Or maybe they've heard something too. A few days ago, I found a flyer taped to my door. An old missing child poster. Weathered, like it had been torn from a bulletin board in 2003. It was her, Emily Brandt, but the eyes had been scratched out with a needle. Tiny, precise punctures, not like someone trying to destroy the photo, but like someone trying to erase identity. I flipped it over. Written in faint pencil, "Do you still think she was the first?" That's when it hit me. She wasn't the beginning, just the first we noticed. The first who spoke back. The game is older, much older. I found references hidden in folklore, ghost stories, urban legends, children's rhymes whispered in half-dead towns. All of them contain the same structure. A hiding, a counting, a vanishing, and something left behind. Sometimes it's a shoe, sometimes it's a name carved in a tree, and sometimes it's a voice on tape. But always, always, it ends the same. The listener becomes the seeker becomes the sound, and the sound becomes the invitation. Last night, the motel room phone rang. No one knows I'm here. I stared at it until it stopped. Then it rang again, and again. On the 12th ring, I picked up. No voice, just the soft creak of a door opening. Then a child's breath. Then, "You're getting warmer." I hung up. I left the room immediately. Drove for 6 hours without stopping. Pulled into a rest stop. Took a nap in the car. When I woke up, there was a cassette on the dashboard. No tape player in the car. But the cassette was humming. Vibrating against the glass. I threw it out the window. Drove another 4 hours. Still heard it humming. Inside my head. The sound never left. I tried sticking cotton in my ears. I tried blasting white noise. I even sat under a waterfall once, thinking maybe the weight of real sound could drown her out. But it doesn't work, because she doesn't live in sound. She is the sound, and once you carry her, you can't be rid of her. You can silence the room, but never yourself. Because you're what she plays now. I've come to believe that the tapes are not the source. They're symptoms, like the peeling of paint before a collapse. Like the chill before a storm. The real transmission is deeper. Subtle, ancient. I think it lives in magnetic fields. In electric hum. In the breath between words. I've heard her voice in radio static. I've heard her counting in the flicker of faulty fluorescent lights. Once, I saw her reflection in a blank TV screen. Not standing behind me, in me. Wearing my face. Smiling. That's when I knew I wouldn't make it out. Not whole, not unchanged, and maybe not alone. So I'm doing the only thing I can. I'm writing it all down. Every detail, every sound, every whisper. I'm giving it structure. A container. Something that can hold the weight of what I've carried. And maybe, if I'm lucky, this story will work like the old tape recorders used to, with a red button for record and a gray one for stop. And maybe if you read it to the end, you can press stop. But if she's already started whispering in your ear, if you've already begun to hum a tune you don't remember learning, if your lights flicker when you think about her, then I'm sorry. Truly. Because that means she's passed through me, and into you. And now you're it. I don't know your name. I don't know where you are. But if you're reading this, you're already closer than you think. That's how it starts. Curiosity. A click. A scroll too far. And now you've heard the rhythm in the words. Felt it in the back of your mind like a weight settling behind your eyes. You might not hear her yet, not clearly, but you will. At first, it's little things. Your music warps for a second. Even offline, you hear giggling in the space between songs. You'll swear you left a light on, and it'll be off. Or worse, you'll be certain you turned it off, and it'll be on, casting shadows that don't move quite right. Then you'll start waking up at the same time every night. 3:12 a.m. You'll think it's just stress. Bad sleep. Maybe even Google it. But you won't find rest, only patterns. Stories like mine. Tales of knocks. Of whispering girls. Of footsteps in the attic when there is no attic. You'll think you're imagining it. Until the first cassette shows up. It won't be in the mail. You'll find it. In your glove box. On your bathroom sink. Sometimes even in your jacket pocket, even though you haven't worn it in weeks. And when you see it, you'll tell yourself you don't have a way to play it. You'll resist. But one night, when the silence is unbearable, when something inside you needs to know, you'll find an old Walkman at a thrift shop. Or you'll dig one up from the back of a drawer you forgot you had. And you'll listen. That's when it'll begin in earnest. You'll hear her say something you shouldn't understand. A name you don't recognize. But it'll feel personal, intimate, like she's known you longer than you've been alive. And the worst part? Maybe she has. The tapes don't just contain sound. They record time, memories, fragments of forgotten lives. They absorb the parts of you don't notice leaking. You become the format, the hiss, the whisper in the left channel. Your dreams begin blending with hers. You'll wake up and not remember if you're you or someone she used to know. You'll stop trusting mirrors. You'll see her in them, behind you, beside you, inside you. She doesn't always wear a dress. Sometimes she looks like your sister. Sometimes like the kid you bullied in 6th grade. Sometimes like your future child. But it's always her, Emily, or whatever's wearing her now. The name isn't important anymore. The presence is. You'll start hearing static even in total silence. You'll think your ears are ringing. But it'll be her, singing, barely audible, in the frequency space where your mind doesn't filter. That's when the rules start changing. The knocks won't be at your door anymore. They'll be inside your head. You'll feel them in your chest. Like your heartbeat's no longer yours. Just a metronome, keeping time. For the game, you might try to warn someone. Post about it, write it all down, like I'm doing now, but it won't help, because words don't stop her. They invite her. Every sentence you form is another line of magnetic tape. Another loop. And once you've recorded her into memory, your memory, she never leaves. You carry her like a reel. Until someone else finds you. Listens, reads, plays. And that's how she moves. She's not chasing anyone. She's just being found. Over and over. Again and again. The same voice. The same game. The same rules. But slightly different players. And now it's your turn. The knocks may come tonight. Or maybe next week. But they'll come. And when they do, don't answer. Don't move. Don't breathe. But you will. Because you'll need to know. Because we always do. That's what makes us perfect. Curious. Hollow enough to echo. And she needs that. Not fear. Not belief. Attention. So here's your final warning. If you've ever played hide and seek, think back to the last time you hid too well. When no one found you. When you stayed quiet for too long. When you started wondering if everyone forgot. That feeling? That loneliness? That cold, creeping silence? That's her. That's always been her. Waiting. Watching. Whispering. And when you hear her say it. When her voice curls into your ear like smoke, ready or not. Don't let her finish. Because if you do, if you let her say it all, you've already lost. And so I live now in the in-between. Not gone, but not quite here either. A ghost still tethered to breath. Watching the clock hands crawl toward dusk like the slow turning of a reel. I don't listen to tapes anymore. I don't need to. The sound is always with me. In the way my coffee machine clicks twice before it starts. In the buzz behind streetlights as I walk at night. In the soft drag of wind across the motel curtains. I've come to understand that the game doesn't end. Not really. It just moves, changes hands, adjusts the rhythm. Like a story retold with different names but the same bones. I've stopped running, not because I'm brave, but because I think, maybe she doesn't want us to run. Maybe the game was never meant to terrify. Maybe it's a loop she's trapped into. A hiding place that became a prison. A whisper that echoed so long no one remembered what the first voice sounded like anymore. And maybe every tape, every knock, every whispered tag is her way of saying please, just find me. I think about that a lot. About the first tape. About how it just began. With children laughing and a voice calling, ready or not. There was no fear in that voice. Just joy, play. And I wonder, before it all became what it is now, before the cellar, the missing time, the voices stitched into silence, what happened that day? What she saw, what she heard, what she became, what we're becoming. The motel's quiet tonight. No knocks, no flickers, just the usual hum of power through the walls, the soft whisper of distant traffic. But I know she's close. Not in a menacing way. Not anymore. She's just near, watching, maybe, listening, waiting for the next voice. The next player. The next person curious enough to pick up the tape and press play. And if that's you, if you've come this far, I'm not going to tell you to stop. Not going to warn you again. Because maybe the only way to end the game is to finally listen all the way through. To hear her out. To sit in that silence and let it unfold. Not as a curse, but as a memory that someone needs to carry. One last time. Maybe that's what I've been doing all along. Not running, not hiding, but recording, holding space. keeping the sound alive just long enough for someone else to come along and hear it right. Because if enough of us listen, really listen, maybe she won't have to keep whispering. Maybe she won't have to hide anymore. Maybe this game can end. So if you find a type, just one, don't be afraid. Don't look away. Sit down, let it play, and when the voice says, ready or not, maybe, just maybe, you answer back, I found you.